Hey everybody, this is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video about America's cremation, the inevitable disposal of an already dead body politic, dream, and system. So, this is some pictures of the United States. Over this past week, you might have seen them already. If you haven't, now you have, and you can't unsee them. But yeah, so what is going on? What is happening right now? I think it's all over even the mainstream news. Basically, it's impossible to cover up, but to any large extent. But in case you don't know, for some reason, the United States is on fire. Not in every way, really. Not just in the literal fires in LA, fires in cities, wildfires way. It is also on fire in obviously it's on fire in many different ways. It's the American dream is already dead, and so that needs to be disposed of. The American soft power symbolized by Hollywood and the McDonald's arches. It's such a poignant image that desiccated, brown, withered palm tree, just being blown by 70-mile-per-hour winds, filled with other burning palm trees next to the Los Angeles McDonald's sign. It's actually a pretty famous LA McDonald's, that specific one. Just being incinerated. McDonald's Corporation is it's a zombie corporation. It's been losing mountains of money this last year. And it also has to be converted into ash. It's a dead body. McDonald's, nobody wants to buy Big Macs. Nobody, the America's special sauce is rancid. Nobody wants that anymore. Nobody wants the U.S. And its capitalist, cloying, consumerist, corporate schlop, as they say. Nobody wants that anymore. That all has to be cremated. Yeah, and so I obviously I chose the word cremation specifically for a good reason, because cremation is, what is it? Cremation is a method of final disposition of a dead body through burning. It may serve as a funeral or post-funeral rite as an alternative to burial. So, the United States, right? The United States has already, unceremoniously buried many native peoples that were there before the United States showed up, and it made most horror movies are basically just America's subconscious, the subconscious spirits, all the guilt, right? All the colonial guilt of all the 100 million, right, Native Americans that were slaughtered and died and were tossed into the land that is now America. And that's a lot of what is already, there's already a huge graveyard there, right, of literal individual, Anishinaabe and Iroquois and Blackfoot peoples, right? And that's what Thanksgiving is, when America pretends like either everything was fine after eating pumpkin pie and Thanksgiving turkeys, or pretends like everything wasn't fine, but we're getting better now, right? but there is already this mass of dead bodies in the United States, and the dead nations, and still indigenous nations that are trying to exist in what it calls itself America, struggling against the settler colonialism of the U.S. Right? Obviously, as a native Hawaiian, we're one of those nations. So, in that sense, the United States has to be cremated because there is no more graveyard space. So in that sense, right, it's a funeral because the United States is, as an empire, it definitely is dying. As a soft power, as a major power in the world, it is dying. As a it's individual corporations, as I've already pointed out, are dying, and I could have said like this is the destruction of America, this is the burning. I was initially gonna be like this is the burning of America, but it's not necessarily the burning. Well, it is on fire, right? But it's really like, oh no, America could end. It's really America is already done, right? It just many Americans don't realize it yet. It's already cooked. America is more cooked than a breakfast burrito, which is pre-cooked. I think they just kind of heat it up. America is more cooked than a microwave oven dinner, like a TV dinner. Like Bruce Willis in his van, what he learned what it was like. Right? America, it's already pre-cooked. It's right. America has already been cooked. It's military is a burning paper tiger. It's getting its butt whipped in the Red Sea. It's getting its butt whipped in European theater. It's trying and failing to start anything in the Asia Pacific region. The RSF in Sudan, which is U.S. affiliated, Western back supported, just lost and got their butt kicked there. I talked a lot about the African AES nations like being back French and by extension U.S. collective imperial power. So, and U.S. can't do anything. It's China's sixth generation stealth fighter jet. U.S. has no answer to it, right? The U.S. doesn't have a sixth generation stealth fighter. America doesn't have a new generation because everyone's leaving America. Of humans, let alone stealth fighter jets. So, like in that sense, it's already, it's cremation is more appropriate because the United States empire, the United States economy, the United States, United States S&P, crown jewel corporations like McDonald's, right? They're already dead too. The United States national debt, it's a $35 trillion bloated lumbering, it's a bloated lumbering Frankenstein monster just waiting to fall over. Right, United States financial system as a whole is a giant mega bubble. There's a Ben Norton video in the geopolitical economy report recently talking about that. It's a zombie corporations, zombie. These in the 0809 financial crisis era, they'll call it the too big to fail, right? And so, but since 0809, the U.S. has basically been dead. And economic corporations, banks, Wall Street, stock market, and government finances, dimension. Since 0809, the U.S. has basically been dead. It's just been a walking, putrefying, rotten corpse. It just they print money and inject that into like so much formaldehyde just being stuffed into the GMs, the General Electrics, the obviously the military industrial complex, injected into JP Morgan at the time, Goldman Sachs, propping up, right? They're supposed to be nationalized. They're supposed to have all that rotten, toxic debt, right? That was never going to be paid off. That was all supposed to have been drained, right? All that swamp, swamp is usually referred to DC, but all of that pus and putrefied finance, those debts of those subprime mortgages, among other things, municipal debt, all this debt that was never going to be repaid. That was all supposed to have been removed, and these corporations were supposed to have been nationalized. I mean, if there was a functioning America, that's what would have happened, right? They would have been nationalized. They would have been broken apart, and those debts would have been dealt with. But that was not what happened, right? The U.S. took like $800 billion TARP program. It took a trillion or so dollars of debt, or maybe a few trillion of if you add up credit cards, car loans, government debt, or like the municipal debt, and then the housing debt, student debt, it was like a few trillion. It took that and it printed like another 20-30 trillion and added that on. It just printed it and just propped up these rotten, already dead banks and entities. The BlackRock and the State Street and the Vanguard are just like the latest zombie walking entities. They're just gobbling up basically all of whatever assets there are that aren't already incinerated, whatever land or whatever there is just being gobbled up by these. But this is all of that is just a giant bubble. Like, this is all rotten. Like they say, 80% to 90% of all U.S. Fortune 500, all the biggest corporations, they are insolvent. They're not making money. They're not making, OpenAI included. They're not. If you actually look at their debts, the interest on their debts, the costs, like the red ink on the balance sheet versus the money that's coming in, they're all bankrupt, right? They're all dead, right? They're all dead. They only can survive with this constant money print, the central bank quantitative easing, basically printing infinite money based upon this idea that the world will keep using U.S. dollars, right? The dollar as part of that dollar hegemony is part of the dead body of the United States. It's basically like that. That's the last bit that's hanging out, is the financial, planetary, imperial U.S. U.S. primacy based dollar, financial hegemony, financial power, and then the military power. But the military, it's not really the military power. U.S. military is not strong actually. It's very weak. Right, that's why they're trying to resort to more and more, and it's that, and then they have the ability to do intelligence. They have propaganda. The propaganda arm of the U.S., the narrative control, is probably the last strongest bit that they have through, legacy media, news media, and social media, and the big techs. That's like the last still somewhat standing leg. But that is being revealed for how rotten that is. Obviously, with that's which is part of why they're trying to ban TikTok, to try to reverse this. But it's kind of irreversible already because of how much the last year we've seen the live stream, HOLOCAUST. Everybody has seen that. Everybody can see the truth much more clearly now. Even Americans themselves can see who their country is. And so that narrative power of United States stands for freedom, democracy, human rights. We're morally good. Our system is the best, and we need to help other countries and countries, right, that don't do what we say are evil, bad, and must be saved by us, right? And that propaganda machine is also, it's not fully. It's still functioning. It's still trying its best. But it's on its deathbed, and also must be cremated. Like its military, like the U.S. empire's military, and its U.S. financial weapon. It's the dying U.S. dollar, right? Must be incinerated. Like that scene in the Batman film where the Joker sets fire to all the money. The U.S. dollar is being dumped. I mean, it is being dumped. The dollar hegemony system. Not that everybody has to go out and physically take all the $100 bills that they don't have from their mattress and put them into their closest George Foreman barbecue and light up a Marlboro Man cigarette and drop it in there and set it all on fire. along with the Marlboro Man, because America's, all of America's companies are in deep crap. And the capitalist system, which America was the preeminent, it was the biggest champion of, and as the planetary capitalism maintainer, that whole system, where decisions are made for greed, decisions are made for to make money, in particular to make money for people who already have way too much money, right? That whole system is being incinerated, and that's also being cremated as well. The capitalist system is being the dead body of the capitalist system that doesn't quite know it yet. The dead body of the capitalist system requires final disposition through burning. There's a movie I just also, what's up to Scale Simmons, and of course Holly Armand. There's this movie, American Meltdown. Is actually I talked about it maybe last week. I think I watched it last week sometime. In which a millennial coming of age story about a young woman who loses her job and struggles to pay rent until she's befriended by a pickpocket who convinces her the only way to survive in America is by committing petty crime. So in American Meltdown, I don't want to show the trailer because I don't want to get in trouble. In American Meltdown, it's very much directly. It's almost prescient in a way, because Los Angeles, the second biggest American city, the headquarters of American cinema, America's media soft power, right, is burning to ash. It's basically going to be gone, much of it soon, at the current rate that it's not being contained. The last I checked, the Palisades fire, that entire conflagration is 8% contained, and it's not looking good at all. American Meltdown, though, it involves a young, or like, probably 30s, middle to upper middle class, white woman, well educated, probably upper middle class, 70-year-old boomer family, parents. She has a pretty good job at a interior design firm, and then her parents have a health scare. They become bankrupt. They have nothing to support her, exorbitant LA rent. She loses her job because the job needs to not pay her. The corporation that she works for wants to not have to pay her benefits, healthcare, etc. And so they say, you need to quit for 3 months and then we'll hire you back again later so you don't get benefits. But in that time, when she's forced to take a 3-month sabbatical, basically she's fired for 3 months. She can't pay her rent because she signed a lease with her crappy ex-boyfriend, who is like it's like wannabe rapper guy who also has rich parents and likes making kale smoothies, and didn't pay his 3 months. Didn't pay her back the 3 months that he owes her of rent, and so she's stuck paying this huge overpriced LA rent in this bougie neighborhood herself, and so she can't pay that. She has no job. She's going massively into debt, right? And then a friend, and then somebody she meets, her house gets burglarized, right? It gets looted. Also known as urban foraged. No, but it's somebody comes into her house and then tosses it, and it's she feels very scared. But then in the middle of that, she runs into this other person who does petty crime and basically shoplifts from the grocery store by putting the dry unsalted peanuts, the non-planters store-bought cheapest peanuts barcode onto products, and then through the self-checkout saves more money on food than you can save on car insurance with Geico. I'm trying to use all American corporations today. So she's scanning the goods. She's basically, she's 5-finger discounting her food, and then she's like, this is bad, we can't do this. And then but the person who is is a Mexican girl It's actually very timely as well in the time of a Mexican America Mexicana. The other girl is a lower, she's like a lower class, like first, she's like first generation to go to college Mexican immigrant, right? So her parents are very poor. She became a lawyer, but then graduated in the 0809 financial crisis in that time and couldn't find a job because of this horrible economy, right? And now it's the 2020s, and she's like so she has a whole law degree with all this debt to pay back, can't get a job, and so now she spent the rest. So since then, she's been backpacking, hitchhiking, going on trains, and living in a van, and basically stealing everything to live, or taking from corporations and rich. And she pickpockets like wealthy, upscale yoga doing, Burning Man attendees, like millionaire children on Venice Beach, like picks their pocket, right? And it takes like the $500 in their pocket. I mean, the people's pocket that she's picking, they don't even care about. They make $500, just walking to the grocery store. Probably a lot of these people. So and it's kind of like over the course of it, the main girl is like, no, I have to stick it out. I need to I have to achieve the American dream. I have to achieve the American dream because that's just what I do. I can't do this criminality. I can't do this living in the way that you do. But then the girl's like, well, you're not a bad person if you don't achieve the American dream. The system was not set up for you to to succeed. Like, it's not your fault that your life is falling apart and now you lost your job, your house, you're losing your car falling apart and you can't afford to fix it, right? Everything happens, right? You're racking up all this credit card debt, and but the main girl keeps struggling to try to make it work, and in the end she just decides she has like $10,000 of debt she has gone into in like a month just to try to pay bills. And her landlord, right, mega landlord, right, that has all of this money, or all of these houses, and is renting to her. They're also screwing her over. They're like, they're when her house gets broken into, they blame her. They say, you must have broken into your own house. Why didn't you have a third key? Like, where is your third key? It's your fault because you probably left the third key like on top of the welcome mat in front of your house, right? So and the cops don't do anything. The cops are like bumbling around, blaming her. Also, the landlords pay the cop's salary, and so the cops double his salary, so the cop does whatever the landlord wants, doesn't search for any burglars. And in the end, she decides like what she decides I'm gonna arsonize my own house, burn it down to get out of my lease, but like have a plausible story about how it was the kids with fireworks. So she said there's this whole setup to get that done, and but it's basically like, so burning down, but it's the burning down of her own mega landlord rented apartment to escape her capitalist, consumerist, dying American nightmare, right? It's burning all of that down, or even in her own mind, like that's a viable path to take, right? But it's symbolized in the burning down of the this horrible neo-feudal landlord owned apartment that's kind of trapped her in this life that she can't get out of, right? Because if she didn't have that lease, if she wasn't stuck in that, and also stuck in that system of trying to pay rents, right? Trying to pay this exorbitant rents to people that already own too many houses so they can buy more houses, which is what Blackstone, BlackRock, etc. do, right? That's part of the zombie economy. That's already a dead body, right? So, in that sense, like, it's very present because now it's not just one house in LA, because that's a story that takes place in LA. It's like a small indie film. It's on Amazon Prime, I think. It's not very well known. The streaming platforms, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, right? These are all dead body zombie platforms. They're not putting out any new content. I guess maybe they're gonna AI generate some Chat GPT scripts and use some stable diffusion or some new video plagiarism software slash plagiarism software to steal some DeviantArt artists and stochastic parrots to make talking heads do some kind of BS. Netflix is already using AI to do generative AI to do that stuff. To make some slime to funnel into these dying Frankenstein platforms, right? Because most of the shows coming out, there's not very many. Number one, like Holly and I checked last, like there was like 4 or 5 Marvel films like every year for like 10 years in a row, and there was like basically 0 last year. Wolverine and Deadpool. It's not a Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's a Ryan Reynolds. It's a Ryan Reynolds personal vanity stand-up comedy routine, and Hugh Jackman's I Need a Job and I Like Hanging Out Ryan Reynolds. That's like a Ryan Reynolds stand-up comedy routine with a Hugh Jackman cameo, with somebody with a camera walking around following them. It's not really a Marvel Cinematic Universe with a bigger budget than some rando being filmed in a reality TV show. But it's like, it's not part of the Avengers, Iron Man, the big flagship America. Again, McDonald's is the flagship America, USS America fast food joint, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a large extent, along with the DC Cinematic Universe, I guess, were the American flagship cinematic film, right? Media soft power. They were the fictional media soft power. Fiction, all Western, everything is fictional, but it was the American movie, TV show, because they also had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There are many TV shows associated. Soft power vehicle. I mean, they did put out Lioness or Lionheart, not Lionheart. That was the Van Damme. There's that Lioness show that's all about making do not watch this show. This is toxic. This may be fatal. Okay, watching this show, so don't watch it. It can cause extreme brain death, and then you need to be cremated. Lioness has Mexican fentanyl drug cartel supplied by Chinese, stealth fighter jet dropped precursors, working with Russian child eating Putinites invade America, right? And then washed up Hollywood, I'll do whatever you say, Massa, Morgan Freeman, I think Zeldana, it's too bad you got to be in crap like this, and Nicole Kidman pretend like this, like the CIA is going to save, the US is going to, CIA and its intelligence agencies are going to save the day or something. It's absolute garbage. Do not watch it. This is the flailing, also dead body of America. Like, as it's trying to manufacture consent to do some kind of several things. Every theater, actually, so the CENTCOM, Central South America Theater, support Trump's invasion of Mexico, Canada, or even not direct invasion, attempts of covert invasion attempts. Taking some Ukrainian, horrible extremists that the U.S. has funded into Venezuela, into Mexico. They sent some of them into Syria, and they want to do that. I talked a lot about those people last week, because the U.S. can't win any conventional wars. It's another way in which it's dead. So now what it has to do is because it can't win conventional wars, as it has already lost in Ukraine, and it's slowly being admitted, even in some liberal circles, that's what has happened. But now what they're doing is they're going to do non-state actor, mostly exclusively non-state actor, just funding and arming extremists of all kinds. People trained and armed at schools of Americas, trained and armed in their Ukrainian operations in Taiwan or in wherever else, and they're going to move them around the world and try to overthrow governments. And that's what they're trying to do, right? So I talked on the Twitch stream at length about this show. There's a lot to say about that. This is the closest thing that the U.S. has to some kind of propaganda, because it's not going to make any more Star Wars. it's not gonna. I wish Star Wars was, like some of the recent Star Wars is actually better, but America's not gonna make any more Star Wars because, you know, it's pissing off some, unfortunately, very sexist and racist, man children, and that are the core fans. So that sucks. But it's not making any more of these big Hollywood films of any kind of interesting, of any kind of scale and interest, or that are doing anything interesting and new. Doesn't really have anything to say. It's not even very entertaining, right? But the closest thing is like these kind of shows, and increasingly going to be made with generative AI slop. They're getting crappier and crappier. Simultaneously, China and other countries, and Mexico is one of them actually, that has more and more actually interesting shows and TV and stuff that's relevant to today. But the United States, all it can do is try to redo the 90s and the noughties, right? And all of its all of its washed up actor. There is a Iraq war. There's like the American soldiers. What is that? That's that one movie coming out. Alex Garland and somebody else is doing this Iraq movie. It's called Warfare. Yeah, that's what it is. Which is apparently supposed to be a movie about how, as always, right? The United States does an imperialist, pro-capitalist hegemony maintaining war somewhere, and makes a movie 20 years later about how committing the most heinous war crimes to steal countries' resources made the soldiers feel sad. And so that's what this is, right? So this is the best that the West and the US has to offer, which is to say garbage. Anyways, so so let's come back to the main topic before I exit this particular topic. So that's what I mean by the cremation, which is that it's already dead. The Hollywood is dead. Hollywood sign is on fire. It has burned this week. The literal physical, 60-foot tall letters HOLLYWOOD have literally burned. That's what this picture is. This looks like a Hollywood movie, but this is literally Hollywood burning, the Hollywood sign burning, and Hollywood, parts of it have burned, right? You can see James Woods, all the stars are crying, right? All these pro GENLC IDE said that everyone deserves to be unalived in GAZA, these horrible things, right? These rich Hollywood, these pantheon of moral cowards that lives in LA, in the recherche upper class areas of LA. These the James Woodses, Mark Hamill, Mark Hamill sadly has gone on to support U.S. interventions all around the world, despite supposedly fighting them as Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. Completely missing, apparently, what was supposed to be the point, if you believe George Lucas, of those films. Mark Hamill's house, Harrison Ford just said, I have been freed of all of my worldly belongings. So Harrison Ford has gone from being actually anti-Semitic, drunken bastard to being a Buddhist, right? He's Mel Gibson, not Harrison Ford. Mel Gibson. He's gone from he said I'm free of my worldly possessions. Thank you, Palisades Fire. Thank you so much. The burning is it is hitting. So the only slight silver lining of the black category 7 flame McCain, and that is the category 7 flame McCain, that is with many fire NATO tendrils coming out of it. Did you see this video of this fire NATO? Let me see if I can get one of that. That was something. You can see like these fire NATOs coming out of California's mountainsides. It's
There are 3 simple changes.
Yeah. Fire tornado spins up in Southern California wildfire. Like, sometimes they call it the pyronado. So, you know, one of the silver lining of this flame McCain pyronado mess is that much of the richest and most powerful people in LA and in the US, or some of the most well paid certainly, they were hit actually in this place. There have been billionaires that were hit. Even some of the billionaires couldn't get insurance, even fire insurance in this area. Insurance is also dead, right? It's for profit insurance. And the I think it's something like it's millions, at least millions of people in California were covertly removed. They covertly had their fire insurance removed by the insurance companies, and they discovered right during this fire that they don't have any fire insurance. There's a whole massive can of worms. There's a whole massive can of ashes to be opened. No, I guess I was gonna say no pun intended, but that's all. I do a lot of puns, so that would possibly be a lie. There's all of these kind of there's a huge problem when it comes to insurance just in general, and like many people have suffered loss of homes and loss of property during fires. Like there's been, the fire chief who was interviewed just said, like, to the I mean, there's much to talk about. There's a lot of there's much of blame going around discussing what went wrong, who screwed up, who did what where. But it's the fire chief definitely said that the LA mayor who cut the budget by, I think they cut the firefighting budget by tens of millions, and they increased the police budget by over $100 million in the just very recently. And the fire chief said that was a major reason why this fire has gotten as big and as bad as it has, because they said they need like something like over 60 new fire departments. LA needs over 60 entire fire departments to be open. And what fire departments there are very small and underfunded and under-resourced. Like there's video, I don't know if you've seen that video of see if I can find that. There's a video of firefighters putting out fires in LA using like ladies' handbags to gather water from the fire truck reservoir. Like it's like, what is, it's like the fact that they had to do that, right, is part of the, like, here, this is it. Yeah. There are handbags like being tossed to put out fires, right? Like they're filling up. Where's the hose for your firefighters, right? Where's the hose for your firefighters? I mean, you can't afford a hose? You run out of hose? The hose break? You don't have a backup hose, right? I mean, and it's like you could, well, this is just one. But I mean, the thing is, the fire department said we do not have enough. There's not enough water because for-profit capitalist water hoarding is a whole problem. So literally a Morton Joing in some people Octavia Butler predicted like to this year fires in LA was like gonna be a major focal point for the destruction of the United States, and that was written like a long time ago. But it's basically what's happening. You're having fires. You don't have enough water. There's a droughts happening. This is a fire that's happening. It's also important to point out these fires are happening in the middle of the winter. This is January. It's not even fire, quote unquote, fire season. But that's also a problem of climate change, which is caused by what? To a large extent, the colonial capitalist system led by the United States. So all of that, right? The fact that there is no water, or a vast limited water to even put fires out. Fires themselves started by the lack of water, in part, making the vegetation very dry and everything very fire prone, right? But all of that is part of one system. And I'm Native Hawaiian, so we just saw this in Lahaina in Maui, right? We just saw this kind of thing. Uh, it's a systemic problem. It is an American problem, and it's an American capitalist, settler colonial, and then neo-colonial and imperial problem. You know, all of that is happening. It's kind of like it's definitely more explosive now that it's in the U.S.'s biggest city. I think this is one some people pointed out. It is unprecedented. It is unprecedented because there's a picture people have showed. So I'm gonna find that one. The Chicago fire. The LA fire is a tragic reminder of the destruction of the Chicago fire. The Chicago fire was many times smaller. Yeah, here, this is a good picture that shows that, right? You learned about the Great Chicago Fire's 2,112 acres in school and how modern buildings and codes of fire departments have made this impossible. But both in 2023 in Lahaina and the current Palisades fire crossed 17,000 acres, 8 times the size. So, we're talking about fires in like major populated areas. Right? The Chicago fire is this little red box. The Palisades fire, it's over 4 times. Just look at that, right? The Palisades fire is, I believe, it's bigger than all of Manhattan, right? And it's in a very densely populated area, right? There are, I forget exactly how many now, but it's over. I think it's over 100,000 people displaced. Wait. Yeah, it's how many it's at least tens of thousands of people have been displaced. 150,000 have been evacuated. So, and some people have compared it to GAZA, and obviously there's many not good comparisons there, but it is true that the United States, through its fires and its failures to contain the fires, is causing its streets and its towns and its inhabited areas to look a lot like GAZA, certainly. But one important difference is that these people have somewhere to flee, and also these are settlers for the most part. Right? It's unlike in GAZA, where those are the indigenous people being settler colonized by the U.S. and its allies. But in terms of the fire skies, this is like, I think, in terms of the actual destruction to the, there's been at least 5 people that have died, as far as I understand. But in terms of the actual destruction I'm sure we're gonna have more than that in the future. The death toll is probably almost certainly gonna go up. Not the least because the fires are continuing, and it's spread well beyond Palisades. The fires are all over LA. There's also fires in New York. I just saw there's a fire in the Bronx, I believe. So there's the East Coast, New York and LA are both burning right now in the middle of the winter. So yeah, that's America's cremation for you. In addition to the 17,000 acres, there's the Eaton fire. Currently there's the Eaton fire, 10,000 acres. The Hearst fire, 855. This is as of January 9th, because it's now the 11th. So this has to be way updated. There's been several other fires at the same time, and these are all like LA, right? So LA is. Let me just check. Let me just check that. LA fires, more than 150K under evacuation. Battle continues as Palisades fire threatens Brent Valley. At least 5,000 structures have been destroyed there. Palisades fire continues to grow, burning the Mandeville Canyons Saturday with 12,000 structures under threat. There's at least 11 deaths connected to the fire. So the death toll is up from 5 to 11. 22,000 acres by midday. The Palisades fire is still burning as of midday today, and there's only 11% contained. 11% contained. I mean, all of California could be gone, next month. I mean, like, it doesn't seem like they're doing a very good job. But you know what they need to do is they need to keep generating AI, shrimp Jesuses, right? And like slime, sludge, fake Spider-Man, crappy Spider-Man shows, right? And people have to figure out like what they would look like, right? As Abraham Lincoln crossed with, Superman in their body or something, right? So generative AI, which uses as much water as entire countries, right? That's being used in California as we speak, like Texas, right? They got to keep making, because the thing is, like, AI is probably making fake fire pictures to pretend like America is putting the fire out, right? When it isn't, and that to they say like to make 100-word email, it takes a bottle of water, like a liter bottle, a Dasani bottle of water, to make one email. And so if everyone writes 1 million emails, like what is the population, right? Just the emails, right? So it's less if LA is 4 million people, okay? So if everyone in LA writes 5 emails today, right, with the generative AI that they all have to do, just the emails, right, in LA would take 5 million liters of water. So the AI, the all of LA's Chat GPT Gen AI emails, so they can pretend like they're doing anything productive in America rather than having a zombified, fraudulent office spaces for pyramid commercial real estate line go upping, right? Pretending like the value of LA real estate is going up, right? So that, and they send the emails around so they can pretend like there's actual productive activity as opposed to just bullshit jobbery, right? And shitified bullshit jobbery happening in offices and courtrooms and in all of these rat racing cubicle farms, right? Where you get COVID and die in, right? So if the fire don't get you, the COVID probably will, and also the H5N1, among other things. So in these bioweapon and planet burning AI farms, all these emails that are sent is where the water went, right? It went to feed the AI. The AI drank the water that could have put out the fire, and the AI is then making fake images. Like, this is the job of so-called workers, zombie brain dead workers who only know how to prompt ChatGPT, right? They only know how to prompt AI to make images and text for them without doing any actual work or thinking, having nothing in their minds, right? Who passed English literature by having ChatGPT, a generative AI robot system, read War and Peace for them, right? So what they do is they're going to be typing into their keyboards, please, AI God, generate a pristine green palm tree McDonald's next to in an LA area code, right? To generate the picture of the green McDonald's will take all the water it would have took to put out the burning McDonald's fire, right? This is how America will annihilate itself, right? This is how it will fully cremate itself, by generating fake pictures to show that there's a real America there, as opposed to a zombie dead corpse. The AI will take the water that would have put the fire out, and that you can repeat that process for Nevada, and then you can move on to Washington. Repeat that process for Michigan, right? Generate a burgeoning, booming American car industry. Fordist, 1950s Fordist steamboat. Generate a world champion, heavyweight industrial economic world champion belt for America's Ford and GM industry, as opposed to completely losing to Chinese car companies like BYD and Xiaomi, right? AI, please generate that, and then they'll generate this beautiful massive Detroit just burgeoning with upper middle class people and great jobs, and the world's best cars coming out of Detroit being bought in Africa, Asia, Latin America, right? Everyone's just loving American cars, right? But to generate that fake Detroit, that fake American industrial center, right? It would have to take all the water we needed to put out burning Detroit, which will start burning soon, right? Or freezing to death, or burning, or both at the same time, right? So generate this beautiful virgin, right? So you can see how that's how America will destroy itself. To make its AI generated meta fake black queer mom clapbacker profile. Mark Zuckerberg is going on the podcast now, right? That's another way this America is burning itself. To make fake queer black women, but instead of saying anti-colonial, anti-capitalist things like what they usually say, and like non-white, actually just normal human beings like myself of marginalized identity would usually say, Mark Zuckerberg is trying to make fake AI generated Silver Spook channels and fake AI generated like young black leftist Facebook profiles, right, that you can DM and talk to, as if that's what people do, is just sit around DMing and they go like, as a black queer woman, I want to go back into Ukraine and fight some more wars. As a aloha, as a native Hawaiian anti-imperialist, I want to go imperialize Venezuela and invade Mexico. I think invading Mexico is the best thing ever. Yes, I'm an authentic, not AI generated Twitter user. That's what they're trying to do right now. And they're gonna ban their plan is to ban TikTok and then replace all Western social media with a billion fake sock puppet YouTube channels. I mean, there already are sock puppets, the thing, right? But they were saying, well, generative AI sock puppets will be better than somebody working for the U.S. Air Force, right? Making tons of Reddit and Twitter and other social media accounts to say America good though, right? That's what they do in the military now, is just make fucking sock puppets accounts and do imperial propaganda. Also, what's up, Newer, right? So but that's they're gonna try to do that, but the struggling to pop out copy like this, the U.S. empire just going full steam ahead to push out copium farts, right? If you just trying to make, they're really going hard on the propaganda angle, because they can't win on the military angle. They're losing their wars, losing in the Middle East, losing in the European area, right? They probably won't be able to get anything started in China. They're actually retreating. I saw this there's an article I looked at on Twitch. They're retreating. They're actually moving back from the first island chain because the U.S. knows it can't. It's hopeless to even try. Every U.S. aircraft carrier would be destroyed in less than 20 minutes by China if they tried to start any war there, among many other reasons why they can't do anything there. China has 100,000 simultaneously coordinated, like exquisitely coordinated. I mean, like zero errors, with 100,000 drones doing these magnificent air shows with like rainbow peacocks and like flying. They're like flying whales that are constantly shifting colors. It requires over 100,000 drones in the air, simultaneously coordinated, right, in their exact position, moving in the exact speed, like in tandem. 100,000, zero errors. There's a video of this. I'm gonna try to stay on topic, so I'm gonna go to find it right now. But if the U.S. was to try to, the U.S. is dead. The U.S. is already dead compared to that. That's why it has to cremate itself, right? The U.S. military is cremating itself. That's why it's pulling back from the first island chain. It's going back, the first chain that rings around in the South China Sea. It's going back towards Guam and the second island chain. They say that actually the U.S. military strategy is not the island. The new strategy. they don't want to say is that it's basically to just try to survive anywhere they can in the Asia Pacific region, because they don't stand any chance in that whole area. And more countries also, in terms of their internally, they're like turning against the United States. Like the number one trading partner of basically everybody in that whole region is China, not the United States. They don't, and nobody wants to be friends with the United States. It's huge. Like Indonesia just joined BRICS. Indonesia just joined BRICS. A lot of ASEAN is getting closer and closer and closer into. Some of them already are in BRICS, or they want to join it. BRICS is obviously the counter U.S. Alliance of the multipolar world. It's mostly global South, formerly colonized countries, led by socialism with Chinese characteristics, and it's also, so in that sense, like the military directly is, internally it's acknowledging that it is a failure, it's lost, and it's dead, and it needs to burn itself, and it is burning itself. The thing is, America's military has to withdraw from all the places that it's in before while it still can, because in a lot of cases, many African U.S. military bases were evacuated, and they couldn't even get the, potentially billions of dollars of material. Right? They have guns, they have vehicles, they have aircraft, they have, all kind of equipment, expensive equipment at all these bases all around the world. The U.S. doesn't have the capacity, if it doesn't do it fast enough, to get the stuff in the bases out, if it might need it elsewhere. This is why Donald Trump is saying, he called Netanyahu, he called him a deep dark son of a B word, right? Trump is saying, and he said, what we gotta cut this Ukraine nonsense out. He just said, like, I'm gonna meet with Putin. Ukraine is a bloody mess. We gotta get out of that, right? He's been saying that. And I don't think that's not because, like, it's not. I don't think it's not just a Trump. He is definitely part of this, but there is a growing recognition, right, even amongst some of this very, very low brain cell and very high maliciousness people, right, that it's not going to be able to maintain that much longer, right? It's not going to be able to maintain. The U.S. empire is not going to be able to maintain its planetary, military, full spectrum control much longer, and so it has to pick and choose what it's going to expend its resources on. Right now, Trump is saying, not just Trump, the current United States, empire as a whole is saying, it's very chaotic, but it's kind of saying we got to focus on North America in particular, Western Hemisphere in particular, right? So that's what this U.S. Trump is talking about, taking Greenland, invading Canada, right? Threatening Mexico, making Canada 51st state, right? But what that is a recognition that, oh my God, we can't do this planet trying to run the whole Earth anymore, right? Now, of course, people in the NETANAHYU, they're all freaking out about that. But there's probably going to be some interesting discussions there. But it's that is the reality. The U.S. empire is dead. I mean, it's not. It still has a lot of nasty things it could do. I can't say it's like fully gone. It has many impacts around the world. But like, compared to what it was in the 90s, or in its so-called unipolar moment, I mean, it's not what it was. It's in remission. Thank goodness. It's a tumor in remission. There's so many examples. There's too many examples for me to name them all right now of how it is in remission. But one of them, just one of them that pops into mind. This week, actually, I'll go through a little bit of that just to quickly get through some of that. Yeah, they're gonna need firefighters to deal with this, man. Huge blazes closing in homes in Brentwood, Los Angeles. The RSF. So people talk about Free Sudan, Free Congo, which they do. They're being horribly hurt by U.S. and its billionaire Zionist horrible people and who invest in colonialism and resource stealing in Congo and Sudan. And the RSF is one of these big, horrible, just brutal militias. These RSF military, they're backed by UAE and a lot of the U.S. and its former vassals and allies, or current and or former, or currently they definitely work with them. Let's put it that way. And the RSF was defeated this week. Just today, I think, in the massive blow to the militia. There's a great joy for the people of Sudan. The Yemen has been in fights with this, and Yemen is obviously on the side of stopping actual atrocities in the Middle East, right? And Yemen's has been the fact that Yemen has been completely just blowing away the U.S., its THAAD missile defense system, its the ISRAEL Iron Dome. Yemen just like chased off and defeated another U.S. aircraft carrier that was trying to get into the Red Sea. That's all, that's part of this as well. But the fact that Sudan had a victory against these imperial, U.S. aligned forces is another failure, and a failure for the U.S. and a success for the colonized people in Sudan and Congo, along with everything else I talk about when it comes to the AES, which is all of Africa, or a huge chunk of north central Africa, right? Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad. Every day there's another one added. Senegal, Ghana, just the head of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, he just went to Ghana and had like standing ovations. The president's thanking him. All the African countries are rapidly uniting in this military, political, and economic anti-colonial, anti-neocolonial, anti-imperial alliance to build African sovereign and independent for itself, to not be plundered by foreign countries for the rich resources that they have. And Sudan, the Congo and Sudan are they are just two of many. They're two that have some of the worst massacres and the more massive suffering and needless killing in those areas. But that AES, and it's really like AES and Yemen and resistance on that side, because Yemen is right next to East Africa, right? And that is all kind of coming together. So and like that, if the U.S. and the colonizers, colonial capitalists as a whole lose Africa, right? That's almost the whole game, which is what it looks like is rapidly coming online. It's happening so fast. I can't even keep up with all of it. Like Burkina Faso, Mali, these are places, they were just Niger. They're refining their own uranium. They have their own. They have mined and produced like tons of gold, like many tons of gold reserves in less than 6 months. They have brand new every single day. They have brand new farms of different kinds. Tomato. They're starting to make their own solar panels. They're building roads like nonstop. They're making entirely new educational curriculum for like hundreds of millions of Africans, so they don't have to listen to French, American, and European brainwashing anymore. Like that whole region is just going through massive like tectonic revolutionary change. I can't even keep up with all of it. We'll probably find out later on. Oh crap! Africa invented a rocket ship. Africa has its own 6th generational indigenously created stealth fighter. You're gonna wake up one day, you'll be like, what the hell is that UFO dish flying over America? It's gonna be like an African. It's like a not Wakanda, just a African, indigenously made African 7th generational aircraft will be like flying over America, dropping water on your fires, right? And you're gonna be like, what the hell happened? And they'll be like, well, when you're being brainwashed in the Great Wall of America's AI generated slop, Africa liberated itself and developed socialism with China and Russia's help. That's what's going to happen. If Putin is a worker, but we're 10 times worse, Italian reporter visiting Donbass. That's the U.S. losing and having its crimes revealed in that region. Italy is also rapidly wondering what side is the wind is blowing. The Venezuela. Let me see if I can get that one. Actually, I made my own post about it, so I'll get that one. This is becoming more like my Twitch stream, but I it's worth speaking about this. As a native Hawaiian whose country was cooed and remained subjugated, that's me myself, by the despicable U.S. oligarchy, this Venezuelan victory brings tears of hope. So the U.S. is dying in Venezuela. Its imperialism can't get its coups done. Now, Castro survives over 600 assassination attempts by the United States, CIA constantly, right? So that was already just a massive. Cuba has massively defeated the United States just 100 miles from its Florida coast. But Venezuela also is now successful, and Cuba has suffered for that massively. But Venezuela is also successful in defeating the U.S. in this coup, and the U.S. really tried hard. They tried really hard. They had there was at least they caught at least 7, but they caught 7, but there's many more. There were U.S. Special Forces agents targeting Maduro, the Venezuelan president. They had 3 from Ukraine, 3 U.S. supported, Western supported Ukrainian special forces were caught, and then several others. They had far-right extremists out in the street trying to do a Juan Guaido steal the election by self-declaring, by having the U.S., Canada, and its vassals declare a completely unelected person the president. This is what they did in Ukraine, by the way, as well. Just declare someone president. Victoria Nuland was on the phone saying Yachts is the guy. There's a recording of this even. And she said, F the EU. We're choosing who we're going to put in power. We don't care what anyone thinks. U.S. decides who is the legitimate leader of countries, right? Because America don't care about democracy, obviously. They don't even have democracy in America. So anyway, I won't get into that discussion. It's too much to talk about. But in Venezuela, somebody asked, I don't know what to believe. I looked up on Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch is founded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and a bunch of Western capitalists and billionaire creeps. Well, don't listen to Human Rights Watch. It's been wrong on so many things all the time. That's all it does. Is Human Rights Watch is like a VOA and RFA for people who pretend to care about human rights, right? Because if you cared about human rights, right, you would have been out there to stop Palestine a long time ago. But the Human Rights Watch wasn't there to do anything, and they haven't done anything, and they'll take money from the U.S. that's doing the GNOCIDE. So don't listen to that crap. Because somebody asked me that. What do you think about the Human Rights Watch? That, they say the same thing about Evo Morales. They say the same thing about same thing about the Yemenis. They say the same. Everybody, Xi Jinping is a human rights. Everyone's doing a human rights violation, right? Who pays you? The biggest human rights violators on the earth. The United States and its billionaires. Don't listen to that crap. Westerners will keep listening to that crap, burning their own legitimacy worldwide further. Did you miss the live streamed HOLOCAUSD? Did you miss that? You don't have any legs to stand on. Nobody in the West should ever be listened to ever again about human rights. None of them. It should take us time out for 200 years. Mexico Americana will run your Human Rights Watch for the next 200 years, okay? And then there won't be a U.S. anymore. It'll just be Indigenous Federation of North Turtle Island. So that answer, that's just an annoying question. But the important thing is that Venezuela and the socialist pro Palestine Maduro, because the other side, right, was the U.S. backed fascist side. Didn't you just watch this happen in Syria? Oh, we gotta free them from the authoritarian dictatorship of this evil. the evil Assad, this and that, and like, that guy's not perfect, but but nobody's perfect. Castro's not perfect, nobody's perfect, like, but the problem is the imperial pressure and the sanctions that with Venezuela, like Syria, was massively under pressure, right? And what came after, right? I talked about this last week, right? You have literal people that massively violate and you're just murderous thugs, far right U.S. backed extremists, right? Which is obviously worse for those people than like as in Libya. Oh my God, Gaddafi is so oppressive. You got to get rid of him. What replaced it was warlords and literal slave markets, right? And in Syria, it's like what replaced it? Head choppers and women being banned from even being seen. They're being banned from being judges and holding places in parliament, and the place is falling further and further into the abyss. So, and so Venezuela defeating the United States it's a real success. It is a concrete success for the people that will, however bad they have been sanctioned, right? The people insist, like they had a vast number of people that insist we don't like them, right? Like Cubans don't like their sanctions, right? North Koreans don't like their sanctions, right? Russians, they go to Russia Russia has figured out how to get away from the U.S. imperial capitalists' attempts to economically hurt them through sanctions. The Russians are like, well, you sanction us some more, please. That's just the difference between like Russia. China is like, oh, U.S., you want to sanction us? Oh, go sanction us some more. We'll cut off Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and you won't have any more military. You won't have any gallium or antimony or any semiconductors for any Lockheed Martin missile. China's like, we make everything that you use. You want to sanction us? Go try, right? Trump is at least like seeing a little bit of the sense. He's like, maybe this was stupid. To try to stop the people that make literally everything that we have, like the world's factory, and they are the world's biggest trading partner, right? This is the weird thing, right? It's like, I don't particularly like Trump, but it's like he's not quite that stupid or self-destructive or brainwashed or self-deluded as Biden, Blinken, the Democrats, and liberals, right? It's like the liberals have read more books, but they've read more books that were number one in the New York Times bestseller list. That's the problem. That's all brain damage. Whereas Trump is just like, this looks like it's not working. Right? But the Western liberal, and it's particularly the liberal establishment, they can't be reasonable because they're too deep. They have too many PhDs. They have too many PhDs in the project of New American Centuryism. They have too many PhDs in like Lord Elginism. They're smoking too much British. A lot of this is British imperial brain garbage that they've spewed out into them, right? And then they go, we must run the world because blah, 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 blah. It's all this theoretical neocon imperial colonial mentality. And like Trump, he doesn't have that, but he understands the art of the deal slightly. I mean, he obviously not the best businessman, but he understands that like the thing about business people is like you have to, you might have to actually like, he's a dickhead, he's an asshole, he's a liar, right? But it's like Trump has the capacity to read a room, right? He can kind of like, he's like Erdogan, right? Like they're not the most literate people, but they're like, these people seem to not want to do that. I'm gonna think about I'm not gonna do that. These people seem like they want to hear this. I'm gonna do that. But the liberal neocon, they don't listen, right? The Tony Blinkens of the world, right? The Victoria Nulands, the Starmers, these people, right? And a lot of that, even the U.S. academic world, and sometimes even some of the left world, they don't listen, right? They find the correct dogma and then they follow that one, right? They go like, this is the truth and the be all, and this is the reality that we live in. We must install human rights and freedom and democracy in all these evil places. Thus spoketh my New York Times, thus spoketh my APAC donor. We must do X and Y and Z because why? Because we're the best, and but that's like people have spent like this the last 70 years of Americans that have made it to high places, especially in in the a lot of the academic world and the political world, right? The people have spent all their brain cell time, right, just like running through these liberal books, right? And you know, you're off in the fucking clouds, right? Meanwhile, Venezuela is like, no, you defeated, right? Meanwhile, Africa is like, no, you don't bring human rights, get the fuck out of Africa. Meanwhile, right, China is like, well, we're making the goods, and we are the number one. Actually, by purchasing power party, number one economy in the world. We have 200 times your shipbuilding power. We are making artificial suns. China just made like a 50-year non-rechargeable micronuclear cell that can have like basically non-rechargeable phones. It's like Terminator technology, right? Plus they're curing like cancer, cavities every day. They're curing nothing. And China's like, who wants no cavities? Who wants no cavities? Artificial suns, like unlimited energy and no fires, right? China just had this huge earthquake. Trying to rebuild like hundreds of houses, entire highways, and everything was fixed back to normal. It was a horrible earthquake in the Xizang region, in like less than 24 hours, right? Cut to the United States, right? 5 days in, a week in, it can't even put out one fire, right? It's got thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people running and screaming. Grimes is driving around in LA in a circle. Even the Grimes, America, can't you save Elon's ex-girlfriend? Right? But China is like, everybody is saved. Everybody is back to normal. When the hurricane hit in Shanghai, it's like in 48 hours, 8-story apartment buildings were built in like 11 hours. 8-story apartment buildings that had to be rebuilt, they just like completely rebuilt. Anyone who lost the office, a workplace, or a home place, rebuilt. No questions asked. No insurance. No getting on your phone, right? Right? And then finding out, oh, I don't have hurricane insurance. Every single person in less than, in like 2 days, from the Category 5 hurricane, typhoon, rebuilt. How's Hurricane Helene's victims doing, by the way? Still homeless. They can't even find the dead bodies in the mud, long merged together. Nobody knows who's dead. Basically nothing has been rebuilt. U.S. billionaires and capitalists are just vulture picking that stuff up, trying to pick up for pennies on the dollar people's houses and land. Everyone's getting fucked. Right? So like, you know, that's a dead body. You know, that's just a dead American body. And it is, you know, it's gonna keep cremating. As far as I know, this fire is not done. It's gonna keep burning. Pro tip: don't move to the United States. Don't move to an American city. Right? Here's another one. Just another update. Yeah, I see. You're right. Exactly about the HRW. Yeah, but you know, something else about that, specifically about that fire. Rents likely to balloon in wake of LA wildfires. Okay, I just read it. It's almost comical. Like the U.S. is like throwing. Let's see. I want to get that article just because it's like hilarious. It's hilarious in like a extremely dark, silver, spooky in a way. Like the U.S. is like throwing gasoline on the fire, right? It's like, what can we do to make things worse? How can we make our self-annihilation worse, right? Rents likely to balloon in the wake of LA fires. The massive wildfires in LA will worsen the region's housing affordability crisis through higher rents and challenges with insurance, contracting, and permitting, among others. Wildfires engulfing LA are likely to exacerbate the region's housing affordability. Yeah, rents will increase near the epicenter. It was already massive in that area. That's a very expensive area to begin with. Those planning to rebuild their homes will face intense competition for contractors, and impacts on wavering home insurance markets could lead to greater costs for the Los Angelinos. You know what you need to do is leave the United States, leave LA. The U.S. is done, and all the cities are definitely done. Moving to LA was, you know, and I argued specifically why I say that. in on the Twitch stream recently, like last time. But when you like, it's the American Meltdown, right? That's what that movie is about, right? In part, when you work for a city, what you are doing, right, is you are giving your life energy, you're giving your time, right, to mostly do the work that the rich don't want to do. Like, for example, cooking, cleaning, making McDonald's burgers, serving Starbucks coffee, all these jobs, the servant class jobs of various kinds. You're going to be paid way too little to try to survive. Your mommy and dad, if you have a rich mommy and daddy that can pay half your rent, right, or whatever you need to make that rent, there's basically almost no jobs that are going to pay even close to what you need to survive. It's you're going to have to live, crammed together, and if you're lucky, you can get some family to sponsor you. What that's about is taking whatever wealth your mommy and daddy have accumulated, right, and then sticking that into some huge corporate big landlord's pocket. That's what that's about, right? Capitalist Western and especially U.S. cities are wealth extraction schemes. That's all it is, right? It's like a health insurance. The city itself is just a tumor to eat everything else. And the more people that move to the city, the more the real estate goes up, the more the landlord's wealth accumulates unto itself. Then there's mega landlords like Blackstone that own this kind of real estate in any kind of scale. The rich get underclass servant slaves like you to do work to try to climb a ladder that goes to nowhere. You're never going to make it. The vast majority of people that ever move to LA or New York, they don't get anywhere, right? The people that have the tragic fate to be doomed in these shithole places, right? I'm from one of these shithole cities called Honolulu. They will have to suffer like their parents before them, and they won't move anywhere. Certainly not now. They're not going anywhere. You're not gonna make it big. You're not gonna have a good life. There is basically no hope unless you have like billionaire nepo mommy and daddy. Like Grimes. Grimes' mom is like the prosecutor for the Canadian government against Indigenous people, and her dad is like a mega French Canadian banker. So unless your mommy and daddy has mountains of money, do not move to any U.S. city ever. You feed the tumor. You're feeding it. If nobody moved to LA would collapse and you could be on a socialist path and land back. But as long as people keep moving into these cities, the cities will burn you financially. They'll burn your life out. You'll burn out working for less starvation wages, teaching, doing programming, whatever you're doing. You're going to be doing nothing good. If you actually get a job and you're doing tech, all you're going to do is make new AI generation platforms and make algorithms to blow up children around the world for the U.S. military. If you happen to quote unquote, make it, nothing you can possibly do in a U.S. city is worth doing. I know that's really sad, but that's the truth. You got to go to China, go to fucking Cuba, go somewhere else. Help work on like renewable regreening projects that are regreening areas the size of Germany in the Yunnan and Xinjiang provinces. Anything you do in the United States empowers the United States. Let me say that again. Anything you do in the United States, to some extent, empowers the United States. If you can do things that support, especially the indigenous communities and the actual horizontal networks and the Black, Indigenous, people of color activity that is resisting against the entire U.S. imperial illegitimate capitalist project, not in the U.S. government pretending to care about the people's welfare in the Democratic Party or any of those things. That's all that does is legitimize the United States further. Going into U.S. cities will burn you financially. It will burn your soul out. It will burn you. It will take every time you pay rent. Think of it this way: when you work for a corporation, you're working for a capitalist corporate lord, right? McDonald's, Starbucks, the U.S. government is just a corporate state. You're giving 8 hours of your day to Los Angeles. You're giving your 8 hours a day to the Walmart you work for. You're giving your 8 hours a day, your energy to that. They're taking profit. The 90% of the labor value, huge amounts of that is going straight to them. You're making the capitalists that can buy governments that blow up the world through the U.S. government. When you pay your rent, you're paying to a landlord or a BlackRock that's taking that money and using that to further entrench themselves, buying the U.S. government, right? Buying more stock in NVIDIA, making more wars around the world, right? So every dollar of rent you pay empowers the United States, and especially in cities like LA, and it empowers in U.S. and capitalists and imperialists. Every dollar of rent you pay, every dollar of tax you pay goes straight to blow up all these innocent people and hire more cops to beat you up. Nothing you could possibly do in the United States in any significant way benefits the world. Everything you do destroys the world. So never move to the United States. That's number one. Number two, if you live in the cities, it's the worst, because then you have some of the worst, most powerful capitalist entities and imperialist entities use the working people and the rent paying people, and an excuse to make more mortgages. Everybody that shows up to an office increases BlackRock's fake, zombie net worth by saying, look, we have somebody inside of this office building pushing buttons, right? Making chat GPT emails nobody fucking cares about and nobody's going to read. But it looks like that's GDP. That's use of a space that increases the value of that quote unquote building in the Transamerica Pyramid or the World Trade Center or just some random, 10-story LA office building. Whatever you do in LA or New York City or Miami or Detroit or Seattle or Vancouver or Toronto destroys the world. I mean, I'm not even really joking. You're making the world a worse place every second you live there. Also, you're never going to own a house. You're never going to make it. You're never going to be a Hollywood star. You're going to burn out. You're going to be broke. You're going to be sad. You're not going to get to live your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s again. You're just going to be burned out and sad and broke. Right? And then you'll die early from a heart attack or in a wildfire like what's happening in LA. That's what's going to happen to you. So don't even try. You got to go somewhere else. And that's basically what we did. I was like, I can't live in Honolulu anymore. I would basically be screwed. All the YouTube, all the stuff I'm doing now, none of that would be possible if I was still in Honolulu, like scrambling to put 3 jobs worth of income together to pay the exorbitant, ridiculous rent. And it's only going to balloon in LA. So that's just one of the takeaways. Also, if your house burns down, you won't have any insurance, right? If you live in the United States and if you're working so that you can get health insurance, you're going to get screwed anyway. UHC is going to use 90% AI generated denials to, or some health insurance, like your fire insurance company, right? The capitalist insurance company is going to screw you when you get sick. And then whatever you had, it will be gone. When your house burns down, you're not going to get anything from that, because the fire insurance companies have already screwed millions of people by secretly cutting and just nickel and diming every single person and just outright pulling the rug out from under them. So being in the United States is a liability. It's also empowering the worst criminals. So everybody leaving the United States, right? And then not necessarily you have to like immediately emigrate outside the United States, but if you still are in it, you should try to get as far away from all of, as far out of any capitalist, corporate, U.S. government, U.S. fake U.S. Actually for-profit, so-called nonprofits that are also tax-deductible money laundering schemes. Never work for a U.S. nonprofit. I don't care if it calls itself a charity or like providing opportunities for every child to lead a healthy, productive life. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as Bill and Melinda Biological Warfare Planetary Resident Evil Foundation, that they operate by testing and using new drugs on children in Africa, and also making billions of dollars for Bill Gates, and creating and causing COVID-19. I'm just kidding. You would never do such a thing. Never work for any U.S. or Western nonprofit, and definitely not Human Rights Watch, definitely not Red Cross, FEMA. All they do is steal people's houses and land, and the people that chop up hurricane and fire destroyed land for billionaires. That's the purpose of FEMA and the Red Cross. Everything the U.S. does is cancer, and you want to be as little part of that tumor as possible. I see so many people just crying, like, I thought I would have a life here. I thought I had fire insurance. Now I'm just homeless. I'm just driving around in circles, right? Nobody can fill up the GoFundMes. There's so many GoFundMes. There's not enough money to fill up all the GoFundMes, right? So people are just screwed. They're just screwed. It's horrible. It doesn't make me happy to say that particularly. But I want to tell people that, just in case people are like, oh, well, but America is not going to get better. It's going to keep burning. It's going to burn faster and it's going to burn harder. And what you have to do is you have to find the communities, indigenous people that are still. The Res Dogs is a show. It's a TV show actually about young indigenous people from a native reservation in Oklahoma that are lured to California, right? And they discover California is just full of destitution and homelessness, and everyone's on drugs, right? And and it's like people are selling drugs. People are it's really mean people there, and it sucks. And there's like a very rare opportunity maybe to make it, but what is even the point of being in LA, right? When like you can't afford the rent and you can't even get to the kind of parties that if you wanted to move up you would have to get to. So they're like, that's another part, and it's actually very important because even China recognizes that, like, you can't have everybody we can't have everybody wanting to move to even a Shanghai or even a Beijing to try to make it there. That's not conducive to. That's not a good way to set up the civilization, because it is conducive towards landlordism and pyramid scheme, real estate, wealth seekers that would like to make money. So the part of the solution to dealing with the unaffordability of housing is to make sure people spread out. Don't all live in one city, all trying to climb one single ladder. That itself is part of what created like the Roman Empire, but also the British Empire and all these other ones. They all kind of come from everyone just flooding into a Rome or a London or a Paris or a New York. And the people at the top were the earliest and own the most, they can just suck wealth off of everybody else. And they use that to build empire. Right? They use all the energy and the lifeblood of millions of people that flood into these megalopolises. Right? To then take that and reinvest it into buying governments, manipulating people, right? Making narrative, financial, and military control of entire planet or entire continents. So flooding, don't go in, and also especially American cities. If you go into an American city and a British city, you are cooked. So that's just a PSA. I came from a U.S. colonized country, Hawaii. It's not Hawaii is a fake U.S. state, but in Honolulu, that's where I grew up and where I lived, and like I don't live there anymore. And I left almost a decade ago. It was already horrible, right? And I left before I was completely screwed. Thank goodness I left. There would be no Silver Spoon games if I didn't leave. There's another way to think about it. I would not be able to do anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist education. I would not be able to make games that actually say the truth, right? Like Neofeud, this is one thing I do is also make games. None of that would be possible if I still lived in LA. Oh my God, Holly and I, we also moved to LA. I wouldn't be doing any of that. If I was in LA, if I was in New York, I would just be dried up husk, like probably trying to get a job working programming for a bank or something horrible, right? And then your tongue gets tied when you work too high in the corporations, the university system, or the nonprofit or the governmental system. Your tongue gets tied. You can't say anything. You got to be silent and pull, and just do the bidding of your bosses. Right, because if you talk, then you lose your job. You can't say anything really honest, otherwise you lose your job. You're too radical leftists, right? And then they'll hire someone else. So for that reason, also don't move to these cities, because the only way to afford the rent in these cities is to work those corporate, government, university jobs that pay big salaries in exchange for your silence, no political action on the left of Joe Biden, right? And that is also what builds empire. These multi-million person tumors of people that have sold their soul to the empire itself. So don't move there. But that's kind of a side. This is a side note. Also, one last thing before we go is 116. I'm gonna go soon. Oh, here's a Neofeud. This is a Neofeud 2 rendition of LA. Okay, I made this scene like 2 years ago. Okay, so this is I predict the future. That's just what I do. All right, Silver Spook. When I say things, they come true in 1 to 10 years. I as I said before, I don't do science fiction. I do stylized journalism with futuristic characteristics. Okay, so Spending 50 trillion on broken F-35s, costs, and billionaire bonuses, leaving nothing for fire departments was maybe a bad plan. This is a scene from Neofeud 2. I made it a while ago, but this was based upon what was happening and what I was watching. I know it's not necessarily funny to have people's houses burning, but I mean, it is what it is. Also, Terminus Machina, I also predicted the future here, where Terminus Machina is a game where you play a homeless socialist hacktivist revolutionary jailbreaking iPhone 9 worker slaves from the massive prison industrial complex while dodging drone strikes from AI automated drones in San Francisco that are defending mega bank and mega corporate and billionaire enclaves. So in case you wanted to see what that was like, this is Mexico Americana. A few years before it fully becomes annexed by Mexico. This is Mexico Americana on the path to its liberation. These are the burning buildings of LA, in the ash of which will be built, socialist housing and the Belt and Road Initiative. With Mexican firefighters will put out the fires and rebuild the no longer USA California. But Terminus Machina is an actual game that I made about 10 years ago. That is about all of that and the total financial collapse of the United States. Among that, anyways, but that's just a little aside. The color scheme of the United States always comes to represent the color scheme of Silver Spoon games. You see that beautiful red burning sky, that apocalyptic black, the burning McDonald's wrappers and Nike sneakers and Hollywood sign plastic, just exuding those plumes of toxic plastic carcinogens. That thick black aerial sludge, right, goes in the sky, Terminus Machina, and and it makes the sky that impenetrable blood red and black hue, right, because the sun cannot even get through how much smoke there is, right. Blade Runner 2049 was in part, right, inspired by what California looks like when it's on fire. It's huge wildfires, right. So I can get the image of that. Yeah, there's there's the one image of the sky with the sun, and you can't even. Yeah, here it is. Like this is like, right, LA one on the 8th, just like sun cannot even get through all the smoke as it is cooked, right. And this is a perfect metaphor also for Los Angeles, right. It is a dying, smothered. It is a dying former megalopolis. The home of LA, the home of the Hollywood Sunset Boulevard, all the John Waynes, the Harrison Fords, all the all the Dick Van Dyke shows, or maybe that was that in New York camera, all the American Hollywood soft power, all the Mickey Mouse, right, all smothered in its own burning houses and its own burning infrastructure, goodbye. But it all comes to look like, as I said in Terminus Machina, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Today, obviously, yesterday or today on CNN or MSNBC, right, somebody, 100 millionaire said, revolutions are coming to the United States. We can't keep this going. What happened with the UHC, with the Luigi Mangione, with everything that's happening? These are small revolutions that are going to build into a big one if we don't do something about the wealth inequality. The U.S. is not going to do anything about the wealth inequality. It will just, eventually. I didn't say it. That MSNBC anchor said that. Eventually the United States will simply, it will go through a process of, it will go through a process. Let's just put it that way. It's not going to do anything about that. The United States government, even what Trump is like moving away from, maybe we shouldn't be overextended. It's too late, but slightly less overly late than the Democrats and the liberals would be, right? Trump, because Trump is looking at it. But the thing is, he's not going to really fix any of this. It's just going to keep getting a bigger and bigger mess. With slightly less overextended empire. But the good news is, this is great news for Africa. This is great news for the Middle East. This is for Central and South America. Trump is going to look at Central and South America a little more closely. So it could be bad news for them. But at the same time, not just the Trump administration, not just him personally, who is in his cabinet. But it's it's not going to solve America's problems. It's not going to do anything for that. There's something else. Oh yeah, Mexico Americana. I mentioned that. I just want to shout out. One more time. I can never over shout out the in Venezuela. They attempted to get rid of him. They had marches. They had all this money. They put a lot of money. U.S., Europe, UK. They all were saying Venezuela. Maduro is not the legitimate president. Blah 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 blah. They put all this energy. Sent assassins. They sent American military squads. They sent all this. They put a $25 million bounty on Maduro's head. Anyone who can arrest him, they're gonna bring. The thing is, they've tried to get rid of him before and they have failed. So every time, there's been over 10 assassination attempts on him. Ibrahim Traore also has had over 10 assassination attempts in Africa, trying to get out from U.S. and French colonialism there. You're not doing anything. If the United States, France, UK aren't trying to assassinate you, you're not doing anything for your people, really. If they're not trying to at least replace your government, if the U.S. isn't trying to replace your government, you're not doing anything for the people. If the empire, if the imperial capitalist planetary plunder machine doesn't have you on the bad list, you're not doing anything useful. You are part of it, right? That's all we know. LA leader is, right. She's doing her job, right? If she was taking a lot of flack, or if she was criticized a lot historically by the U.S., right, then that would be something. But no American leader, governor, mayor, senator of any kind, nobody in the U.S. government takes any serious flack. They're all paid puppets. But in Venezuela, they actually have a democracy there. That's really great. And the thing is, in Venezuela, you see there's people. There's over 50% of people. Over 50% of people, like 60% of the people out in the streets. Out in the streets, they are saying, you will not take the farmers, the workers, industrial workers, all of them. They're all out in the streets saying, we hate sanctions, but we will take our leader and our independence, our self-determination, our sovereignty, right? We want our country for ourselves. We don't want to be your vassal. We don't want to be your colony. We want our party. We want our Maduro far more than we want whatever fascist, imperialist, neoliberal, they want it. There's a far right party on the other side. Whatever you want to put in on that side, we all stand by our democratic elected government, and the oligarchy is defeated. And this is what was in Hawaii, by the way. In the 1890s, the U.S. backed a military takeover with far right oligarch white capitalist plantation owners like Dole, right? They were far right white U.S. backed U.S. military funded armed militias in Hawaii. This is why Hawaii has the problems it has today. Is because we for historical reasons, right? In the conditions, we did not get what Venezuela has today. They fighting back and winning against the empire, and so that's why I say it brings tears of hope, because it shows that countries can and are still defeating imperial capitalist would-be colonizers and kicking them out. And the U.S. That's why the U.S. will never talk about this. The West will never talk about this. Even sadly, some of the Western left would not talk about this because, brainwashing. They themselves they like benefiting from global imperialism despite being in the left on the Death Star. But this is the truth, right? And this process though is accelerating, and it has to accelerate for the world to finally be free from all systems of oppression, including the capitalist system. Mark Zuckerberg also is having mental illnesses like billionaire-itis and complication of capitalism. He recently said that what did he say? Being gay, being LGBTQ plus person is mental illness, and Facebook can go after you for being LGBTQ plus. It's and so a bunch of the queer workers at Meta. The thing is, there's far more per capita queer, trans, non-binary, LGBTQ plus tech workers. So Mark Zuckerberg, keep destroying Facebook and keep destroying your own tech companies. That's amazing. That's really great. Keep doing that, you idiot. Okay. As an idiot, there's something else I want to. Oh yeah, here. This is what I want to say. Speaking of democracy, right? So one way the U.S. is going to burn is the U.S. will burn, and it will be replaced by America Mexicana. The Mexican president, the U.S. is talking about invading Mexico, right? Again, that garbage movie, the garbage TV show, Lioness or whatever the BS is, right? Lioness is in part manufacturing consent by saying Mexico is full of these horrible fentanyl, Chinese-backed fentanyl gangs that are all destroying America. That's why America is being destroyed. This is a narrative that's being, America is being brainwashed and cooked and marinated in so that they can prepare for some kind of interventions into Mexico. I mean, they're always doing certain things, but they're trying to do a bigger one, right? It's no. This is why don't move to LA and make shows like this. When you move to LA, you're going to make imperialist, capitalist propaganda like this garbage that gets people killed. It gets countries subjugated. You are a colonial. You are the newspaper of colonialism. You are the TV screen showmaker of colonialism. When you go to LA, don't go to LA. Garbage, most horrible place you could possibly go. Make TV shows somewhere else. Make media somewhere else. Make it from your freaking house somewhere else. Because that's all you're gonna make is this kind of crap. Don't go to any Western city and never make any Western media of any kind. They are trying to manufacture consent to do possibly direct invasion. Trump talks about that. We're gonna invade Mexico, but also covert operations, CIA operations, arming and funding more terrorists. The current ambassador is a really nasty, literal ex-CIA spook, and he was in charge of sending School of America's trained mercenaries and training extremists and far right militias to destroy like Salvador, Central South American countries. That's the new person coming into Mexico as a new ambassador. So they're trying to manufacture consent for the United States being trying to suppress Mexico. Why do they want to do that, right? Why do they want to do that? Because after 100 days in office, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is winning record levels of citizen approval through the party, the Moreno Party, which is a very much left party and left movement. All levels of education, record levels of citizen approval at all levels of education and attainment. And the statistics are just massively good in economically, in education in Mexico. They just decreased women's retirement age by 5 years from 65 to 60. The Mexican quality of life is going up. Americans are leaving America to go to Mexico because Mexico is just becoming a better place to live, right? Look at this. Like, she has like no American president, senator, or representative of any kind has this kind of approval rating. Definitely not 100 days in. The average Western government, Germany, Britain, France, Canada, US, is like less than 50% approval rating on average after 3 months, right? And with 3 months in, her approval rating is up at, I think it's the average is like it's like 70-something%. It's the vast majority of the country. Why? Because she's improving the healthcare, the housing situation, educational situation, environmental situation, and also there is support of Mexico. We know it's historically has been a Spanish colony, but even the indigenous people's rights in the country are actually improving for the people, right? And so there's still problems within the country. They have many problems in that country, but across the board, things are actually improving. This is why the United States wants to destroy Mexico. It's the same reason they want to destroy Venezuela. It's the same reason they came after Gaddafi. It's the same reason they came after Hawaii, because Hawaii had socialism with Hawaiian characteristics. And also they wanted a gas station to try to plunder all of Asia by building U.S. military bases in Hawaii. And and Mexico is also part of the Belt and is closely aligned. They invited Putin and she invited Putin and Xi Jinping and the Cuban and Venezuelan officials to Mexico, and refused the Ukrainian and American officials, right? So that because Mexico actually has a government and people that have actual autonomy, actual democracy. Mexico has more democracy than America by leaps and bounds. And you can see that by the material conditions and the material reality and the actual approval of the people. Right? This is actually China and Mexico actually share that. The Chinese government has a 90+% approval rating according to Harvard studies, among other U.S. official studies, even U.S. elite university studies, right? They know that. But Mexico also has now a very high approval rating, unlike Joe Biden. Joe Biden and Donald Trump, nobody really, really likes either of those people. Nobody definitely likes Kamala Harris. Nobody likes the U.S. government at all. The Mexicans like their own government, and that's why the United States is trying to intervene. So Viva Mexico, and we look forward to America Mexicana. The United States will stop burning and have healthcare and housing when when Mexico invades and annexes California, Washington, and Oregon, then America will get better. By assisting, I'm just kidding, not going to invade. When Mexico comes in and saves California, and Californians vote to join Mexico to save themselves from fire, poverty, homelessness, foodlessness, right? And just unlivability of their situation, right? And Mexico and China work together to rebuild the U.S. West Coast, right? Then the lives of people in California will start to get better. Not before. America will keep destroying California. It will eat Californians for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The United States billionaires that run the United States terminally will continue. So if you still want to hang out and find out how it's going to go, you see how that's going to go. I think the United States actually might send military forces to Tijuana, to the border, the California border, because the U.S. National Guard might be pushed to the border to stop Mexicans from telling Americans how much better not being part of gringo imperialist capitalist shitholes is, right? The U.S. military will have to push back the Mexican firefighters, trying to put Mexicans will be trying. They're offering. It's funny because Trump just threatened to annex Mexico and Canada. Canada and Mexico are both now sending firefighters into California to put out their fires for them. Native Navajo people who have been crushed by settler colonialism, the Navajo Nation is sending their own firefighters to put out settler colonizers' fires for them in California. So, I think, but yeah, that's but short of that, American U.S. LA is never going to be a good place ever. It will burn. It will keep burning. Sadly, very sadly. One other thing is that, did you know that let me see if I shared that one. Oh yeah, shout out to Che. I'm not liberated. Liberators do not exist. The people liberate themselves. Did you know that one more connection? There's a 100% tariff on Chinese vehicles. There's an $8,000 Chinese car that has a higher performing car than any Ford or GM. It's the discounted, cheap BYD, the cheapest economy model BYD. But in the U.S., you can't even get access to many of these Chinese cars, even if you wanted to. They're good for the environment. They're renewable. They're better than many American electric. America barely has any electric cars. They're better than any Tesla, and they're definitely better than gas guzzler cars, and they're way cheaper, right? Mexico can get these cars for cheap because what? They're not part of U.S. imperialism, and they're not in some ridiculous, ill-fated, self-destructive tariff war, sanction war, economic war that America is losing, right? By trying to sanction China. So Mexico has EVs. The Mexican government including their firefighters, their police, their military, Mexican government officials have BYD. So Mexico is rolling into the United States with BYD cars right now. And so Americans will finally get their electric cars when Mexico rolls in on them. Chinese-made EVs and liberates California from the Palisade Fire. And then America can stop having poverty when they join America Mexicana. So that and so that that was shoot, I'm trying to find that one. I had one more and I lost it. There was the Claudia Sheinbaum obviously said the what did she say, it's such a beautiful, because Trump said Gulf of Mexico, we should rename it Gulf of America, right? Let's see, America, right? She obviously said we should even American media is saying that they're even American liberal and some left media was saying that she was trolling Trump, right? With a map of America, the map of America Mexicana. I'm sure you saw this, right? It sounds nice, no? Because the founding document dating from 1814 preceded Mexico's constitution, referring to it that way. The thing is actually a large percentage of West and South, what's called the South U.S. I mean, it was part of what was called Mexico at one point. And obviously, all of this is indigenous territories that existed before that. And ultimately, what exactly the territory is called, whether it's called the U.S. or it's called the Mexico, is the most important thing is how I pointed this out earlier this week on my friend Leaping Larry's stream. What it matters most is how is the people in that place, whatever it's called, treated. How is the environment treated? How are the people treated? What is that place, that those entities they're doing to the rest of the world externally? That's what really matters, right? If the people if you call yourself Mexico or you call yourself U.S. if you're in Mexico Americana LA, or you're in U.S. Gringo LA, United States of America Anglo LA, whichever entity you're inside of, right? What matters is are the people there getting their food and housing and clothing and their needs met? Are the people in there suffering under ethnic strife, fighting each other based on ethnic differences, religious differences, nation differences, language differences? Are the people in that region, do they have good, physical health, mental health? Is the environment good? Is there water of high quality, right? Is the environment there being seriously mistreated? Is there pollution everywhere, right? Is that the entity that it's in, right? Is it going around the world and doing colonialism, starting wars, right? And that's what really matters, right? Whether it's a big or small entity, it's not the size of the actual government, the state, whatever the body it's in, right? Because everyone is actually in many different bodies, even if one of them is often internationally recognized, UN recognized state. But the thing is, everything is always a little bit blurry. People are in their own guilds, their own federations. People are in their, you're in clubs, right? You're from a different ethnic region inside of, right, a place, right? Mexico has, they have different ethnic peoples in there. I mean, every place, Russia, China, they all have many different ethnic regions, different ethnicities, different languages there, right? And right, the question is, how are the people treated? And so, Mexico has a history of, Spanish colonialism was a problem, right? But are the people that speak another indigenous language in Mexico and practice another culture, are they allowed to do that without being trampled on, without being, suffering colonial oppression, right? As a native Hawaiian, if the United States actually treated people the way that it claims to, with respect, human rights, freedom, democracy, no suppression of language or culture, if all of that was true, then I probably would, it doesn't matter what it's called. They call it USA or Turducken, United Duckies of, the Purple People Eater. It doesn't matter what that actually it's called, right? The larger grouping, what the state is called, it matters how is people treated. We're not treated well. That's the thing, right? And the United States, the problem with the United States is that I don't see the people that are dedicated to, and the forces that are in control in DC as the entire United States, right, of America, in Wall Street, in DC, like those people, there's no, like, if there was like, oh my gosh, things are really gonna change now, I would be like, oh well, that's interesting. I don't see any hope. That's why I'm saying I can't predict. I seem like I sometimes try to predict the future, or sometimes I'm correct about things, but like I can't actually predict. But I don't see a trajectory where the U.S. is, suddenly the flag that means United States of America suddenly gets good, right? Like there's many places don't exist anymore. Like Rome is gone, the Roman Empire is gone. Nobody walks around with swastikas except really horrible people, right? But the swastika, the Hitler mustache, it was very stylish. Now nobody wears that centimeter wide Hitler mustache anymore, right? Some things never get fixed. They just are bad forever. And the United States, it seems like one of those things that will just kind of die out, and it'll be remembered as that. Really, the American flag will come to represent something like the swastika, which it already does. It just, Americans and Westerners don't realize it yet. Africans, Asian, Latin Americans look at that American flag with the 50 stars, red, white, and blue, and they see a swastika. They see something horrible, legitimately, because of their lived and historical real experiences and real history. And the United States, it looks like it's going to more. U.S. is not going to go the way of it's not going to go the way of, like Mexico. It has some possibility of, seems like, getting better, right? But like, Venezuela, the many places in Central America have had historically problems, right? But when you wave a Venezuelan flag, right? When you wave an Iranian flag, right? Now, Westerners see evil. Oh, Iran is evil, authoritarian, right? But like, A, that's not based in reality in history, and B, that's changing rapidly, especially through TikTok. This is why U.S. is trying to ban TikTok, right? And so like, and so the trajectory, like, obviously Iran, I can't say exactly what will happen in the future, but Iran could come to represent some horrible, evil, nasty place. In the West, the Russian flag represents evil, horrible, badness, but that's not the majority of the world. Europe and the United States, that all Russia is the worst place. That is not right. When the majority of the earth sees the American flag, they see a swastika, a Nazi swastika. When they see a Russian flag, they see, oh, that, like, they're not saying that's a perfect place, but like, those people, they have helped us out historically, like in Venezuela, Russia's in Cuba, Russians has helped Africa historically and today, right? When they see a Chinese flag, 90% of the earth sees, oh wow, those people. There's a video of an Iraqi man saying, never forget Mao, never forget Mao. China has helped us out so much. China has so many ways to fix up all of Asia, including Iraq. When the world sees a Chinese flag, they see the opposite of a swastika. They see a country that treats them as equals, even though they're much more powerful and much bigger. Countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America, they see the Chinese flag and they see a friend. They see the future and the hope of humanity. They see a better system than the U.S.-led Western order, right? And so, like, now one day, of course, that could be different, but that's what I'm trying to say, right? So China also is not a perfect country, but like it is, it's current internally, you can see that it is doing what the people need. China has 56 ethnic regions, and all those ethnic regions have the right, as far as I can see it, they approve of their government. They approve of what they've done. They're able to practice their language and culture without being trampled upon. Like I said, that's what really matters, right? They can practice, and the resources of their country are being used to the benefit of the people. They're moving away from an exploitative capitalist system. China isn't invading, right? The entity is not the whatever it calls itself, that the grouping, the state, or the country, or the human organizational unit, right, of the Chinese country is not invading. Has 800 military bases invading almost every country on the earth, trying to overthrow countries, destroy countries, bomb countries, right? Committing HOLOCAUST in the Middle East. They're not doing that, right? Actually, China just gave Yemen weapons to us to stop GNOCIDE, right? They're directly, openly doing that. So, and that all that does is make people see, oh my goodness. So that's making them look even better. The United States is terminal swastika trajectory. That's what it looks like, terminal swastika trajectory. Donald Trump is like changing. It's more like a swastika focused in the Western Hemisphere, but it's not really getting better. We're not seeing anything. Nothing that I see happening in the United States suggests that to me. Now, I could one day, maybe I'm wrong, but in Mexico, my point is that in Mexico, which is also not a perfect place, right? But the country and the government, for whatever it's based on the material reality, which is very complex and involves all the humans in all of that country, right? And based on all the humans in all that country that now they're saying we really approve of what is happening in our country, and a lot of that is because they have socialist. I don't know if they personally I'll identify as that, but they identify more on actually economic left policies, right? Actual socialist leaning policies, and they want to move more and more in that direction. And also in their international politics, right? They're not all just doing whatever America says. They're not doing whatever imperialist says, right? They're not privatizing everything and selling everything off to the highest bidder, right? So in that sense, like whether United States becomes America Mexicana I'm kind of saying that to get a rise out of some liberal gringos, I got all my Cyberspook streams are gonna be in Spanish from now on. I'm gonna be like the Chinese neon, the Chinese neon business sign salesman Tony from LC Sign. I'm gonna speak. I'm doing all my streams are gonna be in Mexican at the expense of Western imperialists and ignorant people up in that Norte Americana. No, just joking, but it's not really important what exactly it is called. What matters is like what are the conditions of the people inside of the place, and also what is the conditions of the people, the environment, right, the organization of the society, and the equity or inequity of the distribution of the resources. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? And how does that is Mexico invading Iraq? Is Mexico trying to blow up Africa? Does Mexico have cobalt mines or support entities that have cobalt mines in with child slavery in Sudan and Congo? That's what really matters, right? And as far as I know, they don't, and whatever they do have, they have problems, but they're working on solving them. And also the number one thing that will tell you whether that country is actually, has a current government, whether that entity has a positive or negative net impact in the world, is the United States trying to overthrow that government? Is the United States trying to speak badly about attack? Is Western media trying to attack, destroy? Is Human Rights Watch claiming they're violating human rights, right? Is the US and UK and Germany calling them authoritarian dictators? That's how you know they're probably doing a good thing. Maybe 100 years from now that might be different, but right now it's for the last a long time. If colonizers say you are an authoritarian dictator, you're probably actually doing the right thing. Okay, that's it. It's time to go. It's 2:00. If you'd like to support us, I really hope that people don't get hurt and die. I said earlier, some things that I don't want people to suffer and die, and it's really bad, especially innocent people in LA. There's many of these working people, and that even though I said maybe you want to not live there, at least for some time, But if you are losing your house and if you are being hit by these fires, very sorry to hear that, and of course, hope that things get better. Hope your GoFundMe gets met and not just Mel Gibson's, but sadly that's probably not going to be the case. But that's part of the toxicness of LA itself. It's a very deeply sick place with drunk on power and fame. But anyway, America is being cremated, and it was already dead. It's already dead, and now it's just burning. The dead body is just burning up. If you'd like to support us, though, at ko-fi.com/silverspook, you can give us a one-time donation for the education, information, and entertainment that we try to share here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. You can also give us direct support at patreon.com/Neofeud, where you can give us ongoing support and, of course, get access to behind the scenes on what we're working on, such as I'm trying to do a bunch more of these events and panels. Like this is one I did with my other native Pacific Islander friend from Northern Marianas. I'm a native Hawaiian from Hawaii, obviously. And we did our Christmas event. I'm going to try to put on another event soon, probably like a birthday or New Year's related one coming up. Talking game specific science fiction cyberpunk games with my friend. I'm also a game developer, my fellow game developer of Techno Babylon, James Dearden, doing land back and decolonization. Speaking of fires, having lots of green plants and thriving ecology, plural crop agriculture. And in Hawaii, we're trying to do native Hawaiian style plural crop agriculture in the area that we're in. By having more and more of that diverse plants that are native to the region, it actually reduces wildfires, right? And obviously that's a part of what happened in California. And not listening to indigenous people there, right? And doing the controlled burns, as they said. In fact, banning them. So speaking of green, some of the latest Silver Spook, that's some of the later stuff that we've been doing. Some of the Neofeud. Neofeud 2 is a game that I'm working on. I'm actually working on I've basically got the whole game done except the ending finalized script. So that's what I'm currently working on now. I'm very close to being done. And then the casting call will come shortly after that. For Neofeud 2. You can also get games like Neofeud on Steam. On Steam, you can get Neofeud for Windows and for Mac, for Windows, and it's not on sale at the moment. But you can give us support when you grab this game. Neofeud is a cyberpunk adventure game. Where a cyborg social worker, a delinquent ex-con robot, and a ex-trillionaire ex-princess try to stop the destruction of LA into a burnt-out wasteland slum by fire departmentless fire-ravaged areas, and among other things. But it's also a game that's just a retro sci-fi 90s point-and-click adventure game, and it's also a game that I spent 2.5 years working on, and as a solo dev. And you can also get this game for when you get it. You can also leave even a very short review to help us get the game discovered if you liked it in the Steam algorithm. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux. And of course, there's also Decolonizers, where you kick your capitalist colonizers out of your sovereign country in a video game, in Vietnam specifically. I see a lot of people are talking about Vietnam this week for some reason. And the Vietnamese actually told black American soldiers when they saw them, they wouldn't shoot them. They said, go home. The white America oppresses you, black man, just like they do us. Like, we don't fight you. Go home. That's what the Vietnamese communist fighters would tell the Africans in the Vietnam War. Anyways, Indigenous Star is a game where you heal your land and people in a science fictional indigenous made game. And Pigeon with Gun and Woman is a book by Holly, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and it critiques right-wing Christianity in the Mary's eyes in the Bible, telling her story. Also, I just want to shout out Terminus Machina. Would you like to read stories about the United States utter collapse and being incinerated, and all of San Francisco being on fire, along with LA, while the U.S. spent all its money on military drones, police, and militarized police drones inside U.S. cities? I wrote this a decade ago, so this is just like, this has all been a long time coming. Terminus Machina story collection. Let's see. You can also follow us at Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop and/or at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social on Mastodon. You can also follow on Blue Sky at silverspookgames.bsky.social and/or at silverspook. Let me close some of these news sites before my computer memory runs out, actually. At silverspookgames.bsky.social and/or at silverspookguy.bsky.social for games and personal takes related contents. On Twitter, you can also follow Silver Spook Guy and or Silver Spook Games for the games related stuff. And of course, Holly, you can also follow. Allergic to Blue, writer, producer, moderator here, married to myself, parent of 2, and Lineback Free Hawaii, MECFS. However, please mask up because, people, when you inhale wildfire ash and the detritus and stuff, aerosolized particles, it's extremely bad for you in a wildfire. I saw people not wearing an appropriate mask or having a mask and taking it off. The reporters and all kind of people in LA, it's really, really, really not good. So please, you might want to get masks and get a good mask. And the N95 qualities masks, and there are higher grade than that. Those will be good, particularly when you have fires, and among other times. But also, airborne viruses and bacteria and HIV-N1 among other viruses are spreading rapidly. So please, mask in your public spaces because it helps to reduce all of our risks and do community care. And anyways, that was one thing I like about Blade Runner 2049 is he had a trench coat that had like a trench coat face covering so that you could not have to inhale all of that toxic air in all the fires, among other things. Thanks to all our patrons for supporting us, and they're massively appreciated. Without your support, it's hard for us to keep doing this work. Anyways, thank you very much for all your support. And until next time, keep your mirror shades polished, be excellent to each other. Keep your N95 or higher grade, burnt palm tree detritus protector mask on. Keep your flame retardant and flame protective equipments around you. Don't sell your water to the resnicks, like California has done, sadly. And see you next time.